morning. It is indeed my great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to Charles Dickens Day, organized by my distinguished colleagues, Assistant Professor Dr. Valerie Kennedy, who is the author of the book Edward Said, A Critical Introduction, and Assistant Professor Dr. Ayşe Çelikol, who is currently acting chair of the Department of American Culture and Literature. Her recent book published by Oxford University Press is entitled Romances of Free Trade. Dr. Kennedy's research interests are Dickens, 19th and 20th century English fiction, and post-colonial literature. Dr. Çelikol's academic interests cover 19th century and modern fiction, cosmopolitanism, literary theory, and criticism. 2012 is the bicentenary of Charles Dickens's birth. Around the world, his readers are celebrating his life and work with festivals, conferences, workshops, performances, radio and television shows, all aimed at commemorating this very special anniversary. As part of the wide variety of events, diverse and rich in content that will go on throughout this year, to mark the bicentenary, English Language and Literature Department is celebrating the 200th birthday of Dickens. This morning, there will be a panel of papers by Dr. Kennedy from Bilkent University, Dr. Margaret Sönmez from Middle East Technical University, Dr. Ayşe Çelikol from Bilkent University, and Dr. Alev Karaduman from Hacettepe University, who will present papers on the topic of Dickens and the problem of the family. A student roundtable discussion will follow the panel, focused on Dickens's criticism of society and human behavior. Ülkem Önal, Selda Saraç, Alican Erbakan, İpek Çakaloz, and Melih Mol will articulate their views on this topic with reference to different works, from articles to novels written by Dickens, and respond to each other's ideas. In the afternoon, we will have a dramatized reading of selected scenes from A Christmas Carol with Associate Professor Dr. Don Randall as Scrooge and English Language and Literature students, Kaan Akın, Mustafa Çağlayan, Alev Sezin Çırak, Beste Haskan, Gülfem Toy, Pınar Esma Polat, Özkan Akkaya, Serap Bıyıklı, Berat Melih Kalender, Nimet Poyraz, Nazlı Yalçın, Gamze Sönmez, Erolcan Talas, and Ahmetcan Varney. A film screening of Oliver Twist, directed by Roman Polanski, is the closing section of the event. I feel privileged to participate in Charles Dickens Day, which is a well-thought, well-planned event to celebrate the 200th birthday of Charles Dickens. Our Dean, Professor Talat Alman, expresses his regret not to be able to be here at Bilkent today, to be part of this unique experience, due to his scheduled visit to the States, but he sends his best wishes and warm feelings to our guest speakers, English Language and Literature faculty, students, administrative staff who had active role in the organization, and to all listeners who attend this event organized by our department. I'd like to thank my colleagues, academic and administrative staff, and English Language and Literature students for organizing this event, for their vigor, diligence, perseverance, and efforts in making this an unforgettable commemoration. Dear colleagues, participants, students, and guests, may I ask you to lend your ears to Dr. Kennedy's introductory speech on Dickens now? So, Dr. Kennedy, I'll leave the floor to you. Thanks.
One of Dickens' favourite characters, David Copperfield, wonders at the beginning of the novel that bears his name whether he will be the hero of his own life, or whether that function will be fulfilled by someone else. In the case of Dickens, there is no doubt about it whatsoever. He's most definitely the hero of his own life, or rather perhaps the hero or the villain, depending on your point of view. When we think of Dickens, what images come to our minds? What do we think of? For myself, I always start with the 12-year-old boy sent out to work in the factory when the rest of his family was in jail because his father was in debt. An experience which lasted only a few months, but which was traumatic for him and which influenced him for the rest of his life and influenced his work too in ways too numerous to mention. I think of the years he spent as a reporter, working in Parliament, reporting on the 1832 First Reform Bill, among many other things. I think of the huge success of the Pickwick Papers when he was only 25, which was a bestseller and made him almost overnight a household name. I think of the pleas of his readers in the early 1840s when the old curiosity shop was coming to its end, letters written to Dickens begging him, "Don't let little Nell die." He didn't listen. He killed her. I think of his first journey to America and his disappointment with the country, which led him to declare, "This is not the republic of this is not the republic of my imagination. This is not the republic I've come to see," because of his dismay at the coexistence of slavery and the boasting about liberty and freedom. And more personally, the lack of American copyright protection for his novels, which were pirated everywhere. I think of Dickens' lifelong connection with his readers, and later in his life after 1858, his very close connection with his audiences, as he embarked on a series of dramatic readings from his novels, a series of readings which included the murder of Nancy by Sykes and Oliver Twist, and which in the end were a contributory factor in his death. I think of his marriage to Catherine, their many children, his later very public separation from her, and his publication of a statement about that separation in his own journal, Household Words, and also in the Times. I think of his 13-year-long, affair with a young actress. She was 18, not 13, Ellen Turner. An affair which was kept secret in his life from most of his acquaintances, and which was indeed completely ignored in the first biography of Dickens by his friend John Forster. I think of his sudden death at the age of 58, halfway through his last novel, Edwin Drood, where the probable murderer, John Jasper, is both an opium addict and the cathedral choir master, rather like Dickens in the last years of his life, leading a double life. Dickens was a man of his time, but also a man for all time. I often wonder if he were alive today, what he would do. What would he be doing? Would he be on Facebook? Probably. Would he Twitter? Would he tweet? Yes, I think so. But I wonder how he would reconcile the very open nature of these social networking sites with his own need to dominate and control. Perhaps he would have set up one of these sites of his own, where he could be in control. But it's his novels which we remember most of all, and which are the reason we are having this celebration today, 200 years after his birth. I'll just like to mention a few of them. The rambling, episodic Pickwick Papers with the Don Quixote, Sancho Panza-like relationship with Pickwick and Sam Weller. Oliver Twist, with one of the most famous lines in all Dickens, as Oliver bullied by the older boys, is forced to beg the workhouse master, "Please, sir, I want some more." David Copperfield, which used Dickens' own experiences as a child in a factory and turned them into art, and which, along with Great Expectations, uses the form of the Bildungsroman to cast a very sardonic eye, the eye of the child looking at the adult world and seeing it as a world which is absurd, cruel, and grotesque, with very few redeeming features. I think of the amazing novels, the panoramic novels, Bleak House, Little Dorrit, Our Mutual Friend, with their complicated patterns of symbolism, their intertwining plots, their ever-deepening despair at the lack of social change or reform. And finally, of course, the amazing final novel, Edwin Drood, which leaves us halfway through, not knowing who the murderer is, and which begins with an amazing scene, a hallucinatory scene indeed, of an opium-induced fantasy, which shows us that starting a new novel at the age of almost 60, Dickens is doing something new. As Claire Tomlin says in her new biography of Dickens, everyone finds their own version of him. So we have had critical interpretations which stress the reactionary Dickens, or on the contrary, the radical Dickens, the Marxist-leaning Dickens, the symbolic Dickens, the formalist Dickens, the theatrical Dickens, the moral Dickens, the psychoanalytic Dickens, the Foucauldian Dickens, the detective novel Dickens, or the homosocial or queer Dickens. We have yet to see a Lacanian or a feminist Dickens, but who knows what the future may bring. I'd like to end my introduction with a short quotation from Claire Tomlin's final images of Dickens at the end of her book. She says, and I quote, "He was too mixed to be a gentleman, but wonderful. The irreplaceable and unrepeatable buzz, the brilliance in the room, the inimitable, and above all, and beyond all other description, simply the great hard-working writer who set 19th century London before our eyes and who noticed and celebrated the small people living on the margins of society. The artful Dodger in Oliver Twist, Smike in Nicholas Nickleby, the Marchioness and Nell in The Old Curiosity Shop, Barnaby in Barnaby Rudge, Micawber and Mr. Dick in David Copperfield, Joe, the crossing sweeper, Phil Squad, Miss Flight and Charlie, all from Bleak House, Amy Dorrit, Nandy, Hairless Maggie from Little Dorrit, Sloppy and Jenny Wren, the doll's dressmaker from Our Mutual Friend. After Dickens had been writing for long hours at Wellington Street, he would sometimes ask his office boy to bring him a bucket of cold water and put his head in it and his hands. Then he would dry his head with a towel and go on writing. I think that's a wonderful image of Dickens at work. Finally, I would like to thank the Faculty of Humanities and Letters and the Department of English Language and Literature for their support. I would particularly like to thank Professor Talat Hellman and Dr. Gül Kurtuluş for their support and encouragement. And I would also like to thank very much indeed our Secretary, Ada Pembe, and also Aykut Akgöz and Uğur Ercan, without whom none of the practical arrangements would be at all possible. Thank you.